their 5 years term, and in that time I renewed all the co-curriculars. Not me only. There was, for example, 300 people making the co-curricular for basic education. But anyway, I was in charge of that, and also decided what of their content. So we renewed in that time co-curriculars in early childhood education and care, in basic education, in high school education, and in vocational education and training. So it was a big task to do, but I think we managed quite well. The main factor behind the Finnish success is the national co-curricula, and it's a kind of a tool for change, but also it's a kind of a way to make teachers think thoroughly what they are doing, what their aims are, and how are they doing what they are doing. I think the other thing that I'm quite proud of is that in my period we created many developed networks. For example, Lighthouse Network for basic education, and it's still running. Say that after retirement there's lots of things to do, then I do agree. So I have a firm of my own, consulting and that kind of things, and I'm also as a chairman in Finnish Ballet School. I don't dance, but I know something about how institutions are run. And then I'm an honor chairing in the organization called OPSIA. That's a non-profit organization for leaders of school systems and school leaders, and also consulting the Otavia, which is an organization that organizes in Mikkeli high school education, basic education, and also adult education. And then also I'm a member of Hewlett-Packard Education Advisory Board, where we try to make a kind of a concept for all educational providers, how they can use the ICT and distant learning more efficiently. Finnish school system has a lot to offer to the whole world, and I think the best way to get acquainted and to know how the Finnish schools are running is to visit Finnish schools and daycare centers and that kind of things, and then, like we do with Dedufin, we also have mini seminars during their visits. So if we want to learn how Finns are doing, so that's the best way to doing that. We got to first think what kind of the Finnish system is nowadays, and has been. It's a very different kind of school system in this whole world. We don't have that centralized system in our country. So there's this state level, but there's also local level. I mean, municipalities, and municipalities have quite a lot of decision-making power in our system, and they use it also for development of the education systems. There's quite a lot of things that they do in municipalities. First of all, the municipalities are in most cases the providers of education. I think the basic work actually is done in municipalities. There has been quite a lot of distant learning experience in vocational education and care, and also in high schools. For example, rare subjects, for example, France or German languages and that kind of things. So there's been experience for that. But the problem has been that in basic education it was not possible by the law. But then when the COVID came, then the special legislation, so they were actually school closed, and they were forced to do that distant learning. And I think it's why it was so successful. I think there's few reasons. I think that using ICT pedagogically was anyway widespread, also in basic education, also in early childhood education and care. And that there were devices and tools and teaching material, and also teachers' skills were in, I like to say, in decent level, and some were very, very experienced also doing that things. So and then there wasn't any choice to do that. So that in that sense, I think because Finnish teachers are quite committed to their work, so in that sense it went quite well, I must say. And the results, there's been some surveys were quite good concerning this distant learning experience. It was amazing for me that the teachers' union was also very, very positive towards that distant learning, because they haven't been so positive before, but now they thought that it's the best solution also to protect teachers. I think the one problem is, of course, the same problem that in all education, what kind of circumstances there are at home. How can also parents support their children? And it varies quite a lot. And also, I think there's a differences between municipalities. We in Finland do have 310 municipalities, and some of them are quite small, and I think the resources to handle that kind of situation is rather limited. And also, I think the challenge was anyway the teacher skills and also lack of tools. Well, what to do in the autumn? Well, there's now instructions given by the National Agency for Education for all schools, and there's lots of instruction and lots of work to do, for example, for principals to make that happen. And one thing is, because they changed the law, that the distant learning is also temporarily possible in basic education. So I think the schools and municipalities have to get prepared to mixed learning. I use that term, and I mean that you, of course, you have classroom teaching or that kind of thing as a first thing, but you can also, and you must have some distant learning, that they are mixed and they are not against each other. They are combined and have a good relationship when we are reaching those learning goals. There's going to be big challenge when we think about the future lack of young people and pupils, especially in the eastern and northern part of Finland, but within 20 years in whole Finland. So there's going to be big distances, and there actually isn't enough pupils for all schools. And the solution is not to have kind of dormitories for them or have them using bus for many hours. So I think the solution is definitely that there's days at school, for example, 3 days at schools and 2 days in distant learning or something like that. And that also, I think, will be the future also in the bigger cities, little by little, because you can learn, for example, in various places, but you should have also kind of counseling and guidance within that distant learning place, or having that via internet. So I think that's the future, not to spend whole week at school, but also using other premises to do that. And there's been about 10% of young people that haven't continued after the basic education. So how to make them also part of that education system? And that means that there's got to be various means of how to organize that. Teacher's role, of course, is changing quite a lot when you don't have so much classroom teaching or and that kind of thing. So you have a different role when you think of distant learning, and that's a big change, and also change within the learner's role. And I think the learners got to have more got to be more responsible of their own learning in the future, and kind of have their personal plan how they are going to learn in the future. What we also in the future need much more. I mean, when you have distant learning and you are a distant learner, so you need to have a personal to have personal guidance and counseling much more than it happens nowadays, so that the learners are not left alone. So I think there's going to be big changes also concerning in that area. I think what we also need in Finland, because when we think about these economical challenges that municipalities and the whole society have, is that we got to have a kind of low price and quality package for them. And I mean the package consists of devices, tools for teachers, teaching material, for example, courses for high school. It also consists of teacher training to use those devices and tools and material, and also it consists recycling. And that's my dream, that we should have that when the school starts.